I was born in Texas to a single mother of three. And for us, it was just very normal to go to church multiple times a week. And my mother kind of struggled with her own brokenness, just from things of her past. And for us, it kind of looked like she was very abusive, both verbally and physically. And so when I was about 12, I was introduced to my biological father. Me and my siblings got separated from my mom. I felt like in high school and in middle school, I was always playing the defense. I felt like there was no one actually for me, whether they were family or friends. And so that left me very angry, very violent. I would get into a lot of fights. Being around so many kind of different people with a different kind of mindset, I wasn't really sure where I fit. When I got into college, I guess for me, the search for like that place to belong only heightened. The community I had was people that I felt related to me, people that were probably like loners before, or like who were into this like whole new let's experience life. And so what we did was we would smoke, we would drink, we'd party literally just about every day. And I would like kind of mask my pain in the alcohol and the drugs and sex and various activities. So my resident assistant, she really intentionally would place herself in my life. She would invite me to church all the time, and I'd be like, no, not really my thing, because for me, like the same thing I experienced with my mom. She would go to church every Sunday and be very active in church, but then when we would get home, it would look very different. She'd begin the abuse again, and verbally and physically, and so like for me, that was kind of like a traumatic place, and it was just like a place I wanted to stay away from. But I remember one Sunday waking up, and I texted her and I was like, actually, can I come today? And she was like, absolutely. And so she picked me up, we drove to church, and that Sunday was the beginning of a whole new life. I was introduced to a guy who loved me and who cared for me and only wanted a relationship with me. He wasn't asking me to, fix the way I talk or fix the way I look or the way I behaved or anything like that. He only wanted connection. I saw the light of God in the midst of the darkness of my sin. I felt like the Lord saw me sitting in that place, and though I was really hungry for him, he wanted to meet me right where I was. And for me, it was all about falling in love with him, and in the presence of God, in that face-to-face encounter is where my shame began to fall off, my like doubt about myself and my identity began to fall off. But not only do things fall off, like the Lord like equipped me with this heart for revival, this heart to see other people walk into their identity, to walk into their full freedom. And about 2.5 years ago, I had a friend, and we were scrolling through Instagram one day, and I think she saw an ad for C3, and we were like, let's go this Sunday. I remember thinking of the verse about David in Acts, where it talks about David was faithful to God in his generation. And I remember the Lord kind of highlighting that to me while like it was my first Sunday, and I felt like the Lord was saying, this is a church where they are faithful to God in their generation. They're not looking at the past generations, but they're choosing to be right here and right now, and to listen to the God of their fathers and the God of their generation, and to follow that voice. And I remember saying, wow, God, I want to be faithful to you within my generation. And so from there, I continued to come back to C3 because I wanted to be a part of what God was doing in C3 in New York City. One of the biggest things that, for me, that the Lord has been kind of like showing me as a leader, I don't ever have to have it all together. That face-to-face encounter that I had with him in college never stopped. When I look back over my life, I think one of the main things that I feel like if the Lord was like writing a banner over my life, I feel like the word would be restoration. I feel like I've seen all of these places where my sin kind of got in the way or anything like that. I saw God restore it back to his original plan. There was a kid in me that knew no shame. And that wasn't even made for shame, that wasn't made for fear. He wasn't made to run away, but he was actually made to run into the arms of God. If I could mark the rest of my life with one phrase, it would be to never stop running.